Good evening, everyone. It is with a very heavy heart that I have to announce the passing of our beloved friend and counselor, Mr. Ellis Forrest. Ellis was with us for 22 years, and we will certainly miss his kindness and his generosity. And at this moment, we're going to have a moment's silence for him. Okay, I would like to call this meeting to order at 7:01. Under the adoption of the agenda, there is a letter 15.2 and 15.6 that I would like to move to 18.3. As well as move 15.4 to 14.3. So 14.3 is replacing the RCMP with a provincial police force. Is there any other changes, additions?
Madam Mayor, administration has no additions to the agenda.
Okay. Could I have someone move the agenda, please? Councillor Jessamine, all in favor? Carried. So we're going to proceed with a public hearing for proposed bylaw number 1018-21. I'm going to call this hearing to order at 7:03. My name is Crystal McAteer and I will be the chair this evening. All questions can be directed through me. The purpose of this hearing, Council, we're here to listen to all the information presented and make a decision on the matter that is the subject of this hearing. Everyone wishing to speak who has pre-registered will be given an opportunity to speak once to the matter as called upon by myself. Each presenter must state his or her full name, address, and interest in the matter, including whether they are in support or non-support. Individuals who do not identify themselves will not be given the opportunity to speak. Presenters are to stay within 5-minute time limit and are encouraged, when speaking, to keep the presentation to the point and refrain from restating points raised by previous speakers. So I will now call upon CAO McCaskill to introduce the subject of the hearing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Bylaw 1018-21 is being introduced by administration. Bylaw 1018-21 involves the adoption of a new land use bylaw for the town of High Level, which repeals and replaces land use bylaw 944-13 and all amendments thereto. Pursuant to section 639 of the Municipal Government Act, every municipality must pass that land use bylaw. Pursuant to Section 640 of the Municipal Government Act, the purpose of a land use bylaw is to regulate the use and development of land and buildings within a municipality's boundaries. During the development of Land Use Bylaw 1018-21, administration has attempted to reduce red tape for town residences, businesses, and local developers by including provisions and guidance changes and rezonings to make sense of our community planning today and into the future. On January the 25th, 2021, Bylaw 1018-21 received first reading by council. Since then, administration undertook a second round of public engagement through the use of the town's social media and web platforms, as well as a poster in all editions to the Echo Pioneer for the month of February. The purpose of this engagement was to receive final input from community members and to encourage anyone who would like to present to council in support or opposed to Bylaw 1018-21 to do so tonight. A letter from concerned business owners regarding the addition of cannabis retail as a discretionary use in C3 has been included for council review and consideration. All amendments to Land Use Bylaw 1018-21 since January the 25th are visible in red ink included in your package. Under Old Business, administration is requesting council to consider providing second and third readings as amended after consideration of all public input and administration's response to that input. Council may choose to provide further amendments to Bylaw 1018-21 prior to giving further readings.
Is there any questions for CAO? I have one question. Under discretionary use of C3, it does not list cannabis. Unless I have missed
Nope.
one.
It's a big document.
Sorry, I don't know the page number.
That's fine. I know where C3 is. No, Madam Mayor, that does appear to be an oversight. It is referred to in section 10.2.10 under the C3 district, but currently is not in that, as a, or I cannot, yes it is, sorry, W under discretionary use. There are the three retail discretionary uses, in the C3 district, retail adult, retail cannabis, and retail liquor.
Is it listed in the chart? Because I didn't see it in the chart. What page is that, please?
139.
So
89 of the bylaw, 139 of your package.
Yes, so in our package, it does not list it as a discretionary use. Oh, sorry, retail, I was looking for C.
Oh, the other way
Cannabis.
around. Cannabis retail, or the retail cannabis, yes.
Sorry.
It's under R.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you. So presentation for anybody in favor of the bylaw? Second call for presentation for anyone in favor of the bylaw. Third and final call for anyone in favor of the bylaw. Seeing none, I will now call for presentations by those opposed to the bylaw.
Madam Mayor, I believe we have someone
A
joining us.
letter?
No, the letter is in your package, but I believe Mrs. Hill is joining us by Zoom.
Okay.
Catherine, can you hear us?
Hello, hi, we can hear you.
Okay, so your presentation, could you give your name and address, please?
It's Keith Hill and Catherine Hill, and we're representing a business. It's 420 somewhere. The business address is 9809 101st Street, High Level, Alberta.
Very much. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so our main concern is we feel that we're all for updating the bylaws. For a lot of aspects, it's probably long overdue. We provided a letter in October expressing some concern about retail cannabis being added to the C3 land use district. Our concern is when we were initially looking for locations in town, that's where we were looking, and but we had to work with the rules at the time, which were very restrictive and limited it only to the downtown core. And so we worked within the rules of the time, with no complaints really. And so now, a very short period of time later, the rules are being changed very significantly, and it's basically not even 3 years since the original land use bylaws about cannabis and high level. They're being changed very drastically, and so it's significantly changing the playing field. And we're all for expanding in time, but this is very quick to happen, and we feel in some ways it's a little bit unfair to be making such a significant change so soon when we made significant investments based on the original rules and locations.
Okay. Is there questions for the Hills? No questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. And we do have your letter, your emailed letter. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who is opposed to the bylaw? Second call for anyone else opposed to the bylaw. Third and final call for anybody opposed to the bylaw. Seeing none, Council, is there any general questions you wish to speak about? Okay, I will conclude the hearing then at 7:15. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Welke, all in favor? Carried. The next hearing, do I have to read all this again? The next hearing is for bylaw 1019, the the building standards and standards bylaw. Once again, we're here to listen, Council. This is a formal hearing, not a debate. Anyone who has wishing to speak is pre-registered. I am calling upon CAO McCaskill to introduce the subject.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, this is a presentation of a proposed bylaw amendment from administration. Bylaw 019-21 involves the adoption of a new building permit and standards bylaw for the town of High Level, which repeals and replaces building permit and standards bylaw 686-98 and all amendments thereto. The provisions of this bylaw apply to the issuance of permits respecting the use, construction, demolition, relocation, alteration, repair, or occupancy of any building or part thereof regulated under the Safety Codes Act, within the scope of the Town of High Level's Quality Management Plan and the regulations for surface draining and municipal engineering and construction standards. On February the 8th, 2021, bylaw 1019-21 received first reading by council, and administration has not received any concerns or comments from the public regarding this bylaw.
Okay. Any questions of CEO? Seeing none, I will move to applicants wishing to speak for. Second call for applicants wishing to speak for the presentation. Third and final call for those wishing to speak. Moving on to those who are opposed. Second call for those opposed. And third call for those opposed. Anything from council? No questions? No stuff? Okay. So I am going to conclude the public hearing then at 7 what? 7:17. Can I have a motion, please, to close the hearing? Councillor Morgan, all in favor? Carried. Staff Sergeant Delarond, you're up. Come on down. Good to see you again.
Thank you. I'd like to offer my condolences on, pardon me, the passing of Councillor Forrest.
Thank you.
So, okay, I'll just quickly go through the report. So we're pretty much consistent with what we were the previous month in terms of calls for service. There's 7 reported assaults. Reported assault with weapon charges have been laid on 3 of those. 1 file was unfounded. 3 are still under investigation, and 1 was resolved by the complainant victim wishing no further action. Break and enter was 1 break and enter reported. There was insufficient evidence to proceed. 1 impaired driving that resulted in immediate roadside sanctions. 15 liquor-related incidents. Charges were laid in 2 instances. We used officer discretion, and ultimately they're intoxicated people, so they're just lodged until they were sober and able to care for themselves. There's 36 calls for mischief to property and destruction of enjoyment of property, which are all cleared using discretion. 15 mental health calls, and all individuals were dealt with by the hospital. 8 reports of missing persons, all have been subsequently located. 8 Public Health Act COVID-19 related calls, and of course it did not result in any charges. 10 911 calls, all of which were unfounded. There are 2 reports still in vehicles resulting in charges on 1 file, and the other is still under investigation, as the vehicle is located near Fort Vermilion. There are 4 reports of uttering threats. 3 are still under investigation, and 1 the complainant did not wish the investigation to proceed. There are 13 well-being checks conducted for the month of February, and the remainder of the files were assistance to other agencies, accidents, and general assistance to the public. What was not written on here. We've had a couple incidents of COVID-related close contacts resulting in officers being required to quarantine for 14 days. But prior to things ramping up in this area, we'd gone on to a different schedule to try and implement a number of COVID mitigation strategies. It's actually worked out that we were still able to function, and at one point I think we were down 6 people, but because of scheduling and stuff, it didn't have an impact on service delivery. I might want to mention that. So, and now the way the situation is now, we're still continuing with that initiative.
So have you had COVID in your cells with your prisoners?
Yes. And part of the problem is the prisoner transported to East River Correctional Center, and they were under a lockdown from February 27th till today. And until they go 28 clear days without a case of COVID, they can be considered an aggregate living facility. So which is causing us to hold prisoners, whether they're positive or negative, in cells until they get transported to Edmonton, with causing a little bit of grief. But
Okay. Any questions from council for Staff Sergeant? No? Thank you very much.
thank you very much for your time.
So you have the minutes of our last meeting. Is there any errors, omissions, spelling mistakes? Seeing none, could I have someone move to Counselor Morgan. All in favor? Carried. Could I have someone move the staff sergeant's report, please? Counselor Welke. I always look this way. Counselor Welke, all in favor? Carried. For my report, I've been kind of lax, it looks like, this past couple weeks. The only thing I have to report is Ready. And Ready came a resolution to continue our partnership with Move Up Magazine until Mackenzie Frontier Tourism's contract is up, which is about a year, I think. The Denny Thaw have been invited to become members of Ready, and they will pay the same membership that Paddle Prairie does, so we're excited about that. The chamber membership fees have been increased to a minimum of $500. We had a resolution to send a letter of support to all persons applying to become a Northwest board member, and happy to say we do have a person that has applied to become NADC member, so we're hoping like we'll get one of our people in there. A letter to our Member of Parliament, Chris Workington, on a census. We felt that to do a census during COVID period is kind of a waste of money, as a lot of people probably won't answer the doors when you come knocking, so.
They'll all be home.
Huh? We'll all be home, but are you gonna welcome some stranger into your house? I don't know. So we're taking a letter, has been sent anyways. And Chief Louis, for those of you who have ever or have not heard Chief Louis, he has an excellent presentation, and Northern Lakes College has invited him to present to this region, and I think they can take up to 300. And all you have to do is go to Northern Lakes College, and it's on their calendar. Just press that button, you can register, it's free. And the first session is March 23rd at 10 to 11:30, and his second session is April 6th, 10 to 11:30. So he's a great presenter. I hope it's a different spiel this time, but anyways, he's great. So that's all I've done. Well, it's not true, but all I can report. Any questions? Okay, could I have someone move my report then? Counselor Anderson, all in favor? Carried. Deputy Mayor.
I attended the same meeting as the mayor on February 24th. That's it.
Okay. Must have been a slow week, eh? And the next is Counselor Anderson.
I attended on February 24th the high-level library board meeting, and on February 27th the PLS board, Peace Library.
Oh, anything exciting?
No, not really.
Okay.
Like high levels was pretty standard,
Okay.
and Peace Library is they aren't running into any issues in terms of functioning.
Counselor Jessamine.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Morgan.
February 24th, I attended the same high-level municipal library board meeting that Councillor Anderson attended. Under the new regulations from the province, we are able to open up the library, so we have some in-house use of the libraries finally, which is exciting. And February 25th, I attended a Mackenzie Frontier Tourism meeting that was very exciting.
Really?
No.
No.
We did select our two businesses that will appear in the next Move Up magazine. I don't know if they've been notified or not, so I guess it'd be a surprise.
Okay.
And I think we finalized our project for the Stay the North. So,
So with the library opening, is there a capacity?
Yes.
So what is the capacity? Is
Uh,
it square footage again, or?
It's a measurement of square footage. I believe Amanda had got in touch with Rodney to calculate the square footage of the library to see how many people we could actually have in
Okay.
there. And it'll be posted on a sign outside, and they'll be monitoring who's coming and who's going.
That's
on and
good
so
news,
forth.
so, eh?
It's another step towards normalcy.
Yeah. Thank you. Counselor Welke?
I have no meetings to report.
Okay, thank you. Could I have someone move to accept the meeting report? Oh, Deputy Mayor, all in favor? Carried. I went this way again. Council's action list. You need, I have one thing, just on the cellular broadband. I got a message from my son who stated that people in Red Deer that have now been able to sign up to Starlink and receive the internet from that, and they're getting internet as fast as what Calgary is getting it. And I actually went on there to try to sign up, and I actually could punch in my postal code, and it asked for payment. No, I didn't go any further because I was afraid I was going to give them all this money and I wouldn't get new internet. So perhaps we can find something. Charles has said that so the satellite is on the horizon, and it is, so if you're curious about it, you could actually go to starlink.com. That's where I went, and high-level addresses are in there. So anyways, it's $750 for the hardware and $129 a month.
But it's supposed to be like 100 meg.
Yeah. So that's quite interesting.
100 meg.
100 megs
Up and down.
up and down. So if you're over in Dewberry where the internet,
It's terrible.
yeah. And sorry, is there any other thing on our sheet that anybody would like to bring up? Okay, could I have someone move to accept it then?
All of it.
Councillor Morgan, all in favor? Carried. Capital projects, any changes? So I just have a question once again, where under multi-use facility, it's got us debenturing 3 million. I thought we were closer to like 12 million.
Madam Mayor, what we were looking at, and this will come back to the budget planning meeting next week, but what we're looking at with that cost is the cost of setting up or proceeding to the tender package. So it was just the rest of the architect fees, as well as some other miscellaneous costs for site preparation.
So the tender documents, are they 2 million or are they 3 million? Because it's got the tender dockets underneath. Do we know?
Oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong line, you're correct. That was when the project was priced a little lower too. So the debenture would have been a little smaller, and we're looking for a lot larger funding from the government now. So, sorry, I was referring to the tender documents, which would be below. But we can update that now that we have new updated, or actually, once council adopts the new budget next week, we can update those numbers.
Okay. Is there any other questions about the project status sheet? Could I have someone move to accept it then, please?
Oh,
Councillor Anderson, all in favor? Carried. Financial report.
Madam Mayor, I'll defer that to Director Phillips.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. I have added in our January 2021 balances. So you'll notice accounts receivable, we have a decrease of $79,847.68. Majority of that was what we invoiced out in December, so a lot of those payments came in January. And our outstanding balance greater than 91 days, that consists of one vendor, and we are going to look at possibly doing pre-authorized payment plans or some kind of agreement with them. It's just a consistent outstanding balance monthly. Taxation, we haven't decreased that much, but we do have our assessment notices going out here soon, so, and we still haven't been paid our GPOT fund, so we're waiting till the end of March for that. And utilities, it's $39,197.57, and not much of a decrease. It's just an ongoing outstanding balance, normally month to month. Any questions?
So we're sitting at 246,000 that hasn't been collected from taxes yet?
Yes, and 60,000 or so is our GPOT balances, so yeah, you're looking at 180-some thousand.
Is that because of monthly payments or?
No, that balance actually doesn't include our pre-authorized payments, so this is just an outstanding balance that doesn't include pre-authorized payments.
So new taxes are about to come out?
Yeah, new taxes are, normally what this, from my look back at, previous, last year, we are seeing it a lot better. Last year we were about 300, and, October, November, about 400,000 outstanding, so, I can definitely check with, our finance coordinator to see what majority of those balances are, but yeah.
Madam Mayor, just if I can assist first, but we do have one or two properties that have considerable balances outstanding on them. If they're not cleaned up this year, we'll be proceeding to tax sale.
Okay.
Yeah, and as of this year, we don't have any properties in our tax sale, but there are a few properties, like CEO McCaskill said, that will be falling in our next year's tax sale.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Could I have someone move the financial report? Councillor Morgan, all in favor? Carried. Okay, monthly report to council.
Madam Mayor, my pleasure to start the process again this month. I'll also be providing reports under planning and development for Ms. Gavin and health and safety for Mr. McLean. So I'll do that all at once rather than getting up and down. So during the month of February, a lot of time was spent working with the Boreal Housing Foundation on the planning of the transfer of the Heimstead Lodge back to operation by the La Creek Municipal Nursing Association. Council's been made aware that that's been a bit of an ongoing process. I believe the board now has the information it does to move forward with some motions to get that process underway. And also, I'm surprised the mayor didn't preempt me on this one. Mackenzie House has received its accommodation standards license as of this morning, which means it can operate as a lodge. So that's the home care, the kitchen, the housekeeping is all now open, or is open for rent. So
I told them privately.
So yeah, Boreal Housing's reaching out to groups in the area, home care, some of the neighbors, the First Nations, to see if there are elders or other seniors that are waiting to move into it. We are just Mackenzie House is now just waiting for its AHS contract, which the nursing contract will allow the higher levels of supportive living care. The senior administrative team's been working on the asset management strategy. There's a little bit more of that in Haley's report. Continue to work on strategies for funding the multipurpose facility. We'll discuss some of that again this evening in camera, as well as next week during the budget review. And Ruth will be Director Rolfe will be bringing forward some options for land exchange with the Fort McMillan School Division. That's also in the camera session tonight. Worked with the Development Department on the land use bylaw. That's just been an awful lot of work that hopefully is coming to a close. And have been assisting the council, the regional service sharing agreement negotiations with Mackenzie County. I am now fully certified in ICS 100 and 200, so I should be able to handle a crisis if necessary. And we also had the group we're working with, the Public Relations Group, the Canadian Strategies Group, held a post-budget meeting that was actually quite interesting in their analysis of the current provincial government's direction. Under planning and development, most of Ms. Gavin's time was spent in February preparing for the hearing on the 103rd Street rezoning and the evaluation and negotiation or work with the Alberta Social Housing Corporation. She's also worked finalizing the data collection inquiries for the Northwest Species at Risk Committee. She's taken the lead and was doing most of the work on the asset management strategy with PSD. The funding application has been forwarded to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and we've received notification they have received that application, and we're just working through the strategy and doing a bunch of work internally over the next couple of weeks to prepare for that, and they began processing business licenses. Under health and safety, in February there were 3 reported incidents, 1 close call and two resulting in damage. We're awaiting the cost of those repairs. All facility inspections and safety meetings were completed and submitted on time. Our employee training is currently at 94%. And the Joint Workplace Health and Safety Committee is working on a safety recognition program which they expect to roll out this month. If you have any questions in those 3 areas?
Have we heard anything from Green Space Alliance?
Not that, if Haley has, not that I'm aware of. I believe they're waiting, I'm going to guess they're probably waiting Alberta Social Housing to see where their budget sits as to whether or not they wish to proceed.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
I'll let Director Phillips come back to do the finance.
Good evening again. So my report is fairly short. I did some first aid training, ICS 100 and ICS 200 training this in February. And we've also received our 2021 tax year and 2020 assessment year numbers. So I did put a note in there saying we have an increase of 17.6 million in our assessment. Well, it works out to be about 4% overall increase in our assessment for the town. Majority of that is residential and commercial industrial. So that was a little bit of a surprise when we received those numbers. And we've been busy with the year-end preparations and the year-end audit with metrics.
So that 17.6, is that from Pinnacle? A lot of that, or does that go under industrial?
Well, commercial industrial, it would be right now, just running some of the numbers. Our industrial is up 4 million. So, and our residential is about $10 million increased.
Really?
Mhm.
That is shocking.
It was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, so our residential is a lot higher, and I haven't talked with Bob in depth about it. We just received word today that there was no revisions on anything so far. But my understanding is we might have just hit our 25%, so every 4 years, doing actual assessments coming in, so I'm assuming that maybe some of those residential areas, a lot of them are just doing their actual assessments for the 2020 assessment year, but I will get more detail in that for the March report, because we just received it, so I will
So
talk
that
about.
wouldn't include Pinnacle then, would it?
Yes, it does.
Oh, it
It does include Pinnacle, and it would Pinnacle would probably fall under our industrial assessment, because that increased 4 million for
Okay.
this year, so.
There was an overall increase on that site in assessment, but other M&E decreases have offset some of the industrial increases.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
Mr. Carson will bring the IPA report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I'm going to go through the HR stuff quickly first, if that's all right. We had no new vacancies compared to last month. The vacant position at the sports complex has been filled, and we welcome Laverne Pyro to the team. We currently have no protected positions being covered by acting staff, and glad to welcome Dana Alford back from a leave of absence. Currently, we're actively recruiting for the vacant land use and planning officer position. Closing date of March 12th has been set for applications. I have received a fair number at this point in time, and we'll be working with Ms. Gavin to shortlist, and we intend to conduct interviews in mid to late March. On the IT side, IT systems have been stable for the month of February with no critical disruptions to our operations. And just a note that the deadline for the Universal Broadband Fund applications has been extended to March 15th from February 15th. To date, there has been no awards made under the regular stream. There has been one award related to TELUS in British Columbia under the accelerated stream, but nothing that's relevant to us at this point. Are there any questions?
Any questions? No. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Madam Mayor, I'll ask Mr. Schneider to present the communications report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to start with Frostival. In February, we spent a considerable amount of time helping with the messaging for Frostival. There was a lot of work in all of the different departments, and from a public standpoint, we had nothing but good comments on it. So I think everybody did a fantastic job, and that was reflected in how the community saw it. So that's really good. Like you heard before, we took ICS 100 and 200 training, so I have that training. I hope I never have to use it, but if I do, I have it.
feel you.
Yeah. We had one issue on Facebook in February. There was we put out a request for people who have the Facebook exemption cards for a bylaw to not use them as a way to get around the public health order. It resulted in a really lively conversation that lasted a few days, and we spent a lot of time engaging people kind of one-on-one. They were sending us messages and we were having conversations that way, but we were also active in the thread itself, just trying to dispel some of the bad information that's floating around and that kind of stuff. So ultimately, it was really busy for a few days, and these things tend to flare up and then they die down again, and that's what we saw here.
Questions? Thank you.
I'll ask Director Walt to give the community services report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good My report's a little bit longer because I missed January, so you kind of got everything all in here, but I'll try and make it fairly quick. So for administration, we had awarded our request for quote for our community gardens. So that was a grant funding that we had, and we put out to build additional beds, including several garden beds would be for the mobility impaired, and as well as a greenhouse. So Dirksen and Sons are working with our committee on that. So that's kind of exciting. For the arena, the time before, prior to us being open, the staff removed the stage that was upstairs in the big conference room. And they've stripped all the floors and cleaned up there, cleaned up the kitchen. All our storage areas in the arena are now clean. And then the arena staff worked with our pool staff and incorporated to some maintenance and janitorial checklists. So we're like, it's an exciting place to be there now. So as good as we can make it for a 50-year-old facility.
So the stage is gone?
Sad day for me.
We'll let you burn it. So the arena staff also assisted with Frostable setup and are helping with COVID deliveries as well too. Of course, the arena is open now, so but it's at a they're only open Tuesday to Saturday, so it's not nearly as much as it would be. The pool has been open 5 days a week since mid-February. It's appointments only for people within the same household. Realizing that that was cost prohibitive for quite a few people, we did approach both the Friendship Center and Paddle Prairie Family Resource Center came through, and they've offered spots to family to cover the costs, and they looked after that themselves through gift certificates. So people would just phone us with the gift certificates already, so they would decide how that was handled. So that was really good. So in addition to, before us opening up the pool, just to give you an idea of diversity and some of the things that our staff are doing, the aquatic staff have been working on our booking system, so that's our scheduling system. So they're working on the back end of that system, so they train 12 staff internally, both community services staff and finance staff, looking on how to improve how we can do things, and then we're working on booking online. So we're hoping to be, fairly soon we'll be up doing that, so that'll help if people can actually go in and do scheduling right through the computer. So that's exciting. Also too, we have the capacity to do first aid in-house. So we also did some first aid courses. So that was wonderful. In addition, they're lifeguarding now too. So, which is, they're very happy to be doing that. FCSS, we're continuing with our COVID assistance line. It's really increased. We had up to 40 people and many repeats in addition to that. We're still doing a lot of virtual things, and we still are running our after-school program as well too, and it's been full the capacity for what we can take for COVID. Some of our virtual program, we ran a teen night minute to win it and had 28 families registered. We're still working with our Snow Angel program is still continuing with 19 seniors and other people with mobility issues. And of course we had Frostable. And I would like to thank all our sponsors, the Friendship Center, West Fraser, Partners in Tourism, Select Rentals, and Topo. They really, really helped to make it the huge event that it was, as well as all our staff, both communications, operations, and community staff. Really, I think we, as a community, we really made this event happen. It was really exciting. And tourism, we continue to work on our wilderness display because we're hoping the museum is going to be open. And we're doing gift shop by appointment, and that's going fairly well.
Yes, kudos to everybody involved in Frostful. Just amazing what you guys can do in COVID. Like, you have all done such a wonderful job, and people have really, really enjoyed it.
I think so. It was a real team effort. It was not
Too
just
bad
community
the
services,
ice
but-
slide had to go so fast, though. It was
It was
a
fun.
real hit.
Did you go down it?
Yeah, a few times. So yeah, thank you to everybody involved. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Director Straub will present the operations report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council.
Good
It's been
evening.
a quiet month this month of February, but that's the way we like it. We don't want unplanned events.
Interesting at the airport again, no?
Yes, it was. Myself, I've been busy working on our capital projects and our summer planning. That takes up most of my free time. We're reaching out to our consultant. Looks like our travel's gonna open up here, so we'll be working on our hydrovac. That project was a carryover. It's kind of one we wanna get going right away. A little late for the new snow blower for 2021, so we'll hold back on that. Yes, the airport, certainly, we had another incident there. It was a small Cessna plane. They landed and they had a flat tire. No emergency services were required, which is a good thing. So everybody out there, operational staff, even NavCan as well as Can West was out, and they helped get the plane off the runway and move it to the apron so they can continue operation of the airport. So that was a good thing. Our electrical center, our runway lighting continues to have issue with mega alerts, and that has to do with the insulation and the grounding of the whole system. We are working, or we have started a process of looking at replacing a lot of that runway lighting. It's very old. That'll go in under ACAP, and hopefully we'll get that out soon. Our initial estimate, that's a very large project, but we may have to do some engineering on that yet. So the runway lighting is very old and it's very high voltage. The new LED systems are a lot more reliable. Again, runway lighting also ties into our new LPV, which is our new low approach that NavCan's working on. So hopefully those things come together at the same time in 2022, and maybe we'll be successful at some runway lighting. Northwest Air Lease, as you've probably heard already, is back March 4th. They're going to run a couple of days a week for a month or two and see how successful they are. And if there's not a lot of turnout and they don't get a lot of usage, then they'll probably go and suspend the flighting.
So, but they're running Monday and Friday, or
Yeah, I think 2 days a
Monday
week.
and Sunday, or?
I think it's Monday and Thursday. And
Sunday, Thursday.
Sunday, Thursday, yeah. So maybe they're just feeling it out. It doesn't really work even for us. We have to travel down to, like I said, to look at the hydrovac. It's not advantageous to spend 3 days in the city waiting for a return flight. So we think maybe they'll change. I don't know. That's up to Northwest Lease to figure out. So maybe the public would pressure them into more usage or more flights or better hours. But that would be based on demand, I'm assuming. So. Public Works is pretty quiet. We had snow removal as usual for most of February. We did have a nice break there. We got everything caught up. We were able to do our laneways, our alleyways, get our large snow piles hauled down everywhere, some of the intersection corners. We did get snow again, so we're back to square one again, but we should be through the whole town by the end of this week again, unless it snows more. One of our small skid steer blower, we do residential and the odd commercial sidewalk that is delinquent. It picked up a rock and off the sidewalk, a very large rock, and jammed the blower up, so caused some minor damage, and we'll be looking at 1 or 2 properties in particular to make sure that doesn't happen again. The good thing is it was picked up by our blower and not into the street, and picked up by our large commercial blower, which would have done some serious damage to possibly the public or the vehicle. Our current hydrovac sewer flusher blew the heating coil in it, so it's 15 years old and it finally did its thing, so we replaced it. It should be back up and running now. And then the mechanics continue to work on servicing vehicles and did some repairs in the sweeper. We had another water break. It was across from the town hall here. One of our main valves that shut off the hydrants, called the servicing valve, the bolts had corroded and come off. When you look at the bolt, it looks like a sharpened pencil. There's no nut left on it, so it's probably our older part of our system, 40 years. Through the years, we've been doing a few as we go to upgrade them and change those bolts out to stainless steel, as well as put an anode on them to reduce the corrosion in the future. We have a lot more to do. I think we have 18 scheduled for this summer to go in and change the bolts. Of course, a week later, the hydrant itself that was right next to it, it decided to let go. So we shut it in, and it is serviceable if we need it, but we have the valve shut off so it doesn't continue to leak. Again, it's just bolts have corroded off due to the soil. The water plant staff have been working on our pump house upgrade from 2 years ago. Last summer, we were unable to tender the building. There was no demand, I guess, with COVID and everything else. They did the work internally on the pumps. They have the pumps installed and everything's ready for the structure, and they will be tendering that as soon as the snow goes to finish that project off. Excuse me. We had a lift station that it was really when the 40 below there section was, we had a lift station freeze up below ground, and that hasn't happened for a while. So I think it was a combination of the frost in the heating system that blows warmer air down to the bottom. It didn't cause any flooding, and we were back up and running. So, but cold still affects us. It just throws right down to the bottom.
Don't forget to tell them about the exciting stoplights.
Oh, that was for March's report, but we've.
But it's up now.
Yeah, we've installed a lighted crossway sign at the crosswalk sign at the Spirit of North School. We had it up today. It's a push button for anybody who's out there. Hit the button, it'll light up. It should be, it'll increase the public safety during the day, especially at night. I'm gonna try and get over there tonight when it's a little darker and see if I can do a video and see what it looks like in the evening. But it is a prototype. We're trying it out at, again, at the Spirit of North crosswalk there. And if it's a good product, we'll be coming back to see if we can do similar projects around town in our very high traffic areas where we're crossing major arteries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, sorry, questions?
Is there any recent update on the Legion?
Ironically, yes.
Did you get a report?
I did not.
So
It collapsed.
no, a housing management unit reached out to me this week, actually late last week. They needed to do an inspection out in Rainbow Lake at a property for structural, and they wanted to know if I knew a structural engineer in town. I didn't know one, but I asked them to reach out to me. So today, I actually got a hold of the structural engineer, and he'll be coming up to do work in Rainbow Lake. So I'm gonna have him come into the Legion and have a look at the building to make sure that it's, it is in the condition we think it is. And we will be looking at demolition as the option at this point, but I should know within a week or two where we're sitting with that project and what the condition will be. So timing was perfect on your question.
Any other questions? Yes.
A number of years ago, we looked at engine retarder brake signs. If you remember that. Do you remember where we got with that?
So entering town from every direction, we do have engine retarder brake signs. They say, please avoid the use of engine retarder brakes. I had reached out to transportation a while back, and I had asked them about specifically making them prohibited. One of the suggestions, or and we're following up on it internally to ensure that. But one of the reasons it's hard to prohibit is because they are a safety device. That doesn't mean that trucks coming into town empty require to run their engine retarder brakes or Jake brakes, whatever you want to call it. And it's more irritating than anything under an empty load. So I don't see the safety practice on that. But, I think it should be a courtesy to those around us that, to refrain from using it, especially within the residential area.
Yes.
What about the skidoo noise? All day long, all weekend, the skidoos zipping up and down the sidewalk.
That is completely beyond my department, but I can't disagree with you.
Yeah, they're even annoying me.
Yes, the loud pipes certainly are annoying.
We can save that for the next director.
Yeah.
Might be able to help you with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's a nice segue.
I was talking about signs, if we put signs up for the skidooers.
You think that'll stop them?
I have a sign.
You want me to answer that question now, Council?
Sure.
As council's aware, we do allow snowmobile use in town. The bylaw states it's only during the winter months, and that bylaw states that they're supposed to go from a direct point from their home or where they're storing the machine to a point out of town, but they can also detour to go to like a fuel station or a service station if they wish. We don't have anything in our bylaw with regards to noise on pipes. If that's something that council wants to look at, that could be something other communities have done it, but it's pretty hard to enforce because we'd have to use like decibel meters with their machines. They're supposed to maintain under 30 kilometers an hour, and if they maintain under 30 kilometers an hour, they shouldn't actually be making the noise, and that is the primary issue. So, you know, they're in our green spaces on their way out, which is permitted in some areas. They're not supposed to transit parks, they're not supposed to transit public lands or developed lands. So, you know, some of those areas are considered developed, like the green space along Chinchaga Drive and between Chinchaga Drive and 109th Avenue, that's considered a developed green space. But we've never really, one, we don't have the enforcement tools to stop them, but two, it's, I guess it's, we'd have to invest in some signage to say you can go here, but you can't go there. So that's something that we could definitely look at if council so wishes to.
I think if we just put a little communication out
Yeah.
there, just reminding them once again that they shouldn't be going across people's property and
It's coming to an end
quickest
here
way out
quickly.
of town.
Yeah, it's coming to an end here quickly. I believe
Yeah.
March 15th is the last day before ATVs are banned in town.
Thank you.
So my report, just starting off with municipal enforcement, as we're talking about enforcement. Forest Services conducted 27 investigations and they received 22 calls for service in February. Major emphasis was placed on COVID-19 investigations and assisting public health. We had 11 investigations under the Public Health Act in February, and with charges under the Act failing to comply with orders for just one of those occurrences. A lot of these are being handled, as Staff Sergeant Delarona mentioned, with discretion of our officers of just dealing with the situation then and there, only in cases where we have repeat non-compliance is how they've been laid in charges. So 4 arrests were made by peace officers in February. We're still working at half capacity because of injuries. That should be coming to an end this month, hopefully. So, emergency management, we did receive an assistance request from the Denethor First Nations regarding the COVID-19 outbreak in Châté. Our town staff from Community Services Department, I thank them for their help assisted with food distribution services in Bushy River in the last weekend of February. We received, I'll detail in my March report at the March meeting, but we did receive another request this weekend to assist them with locating contractors for water and sewer services. So we are continuing to reach out with the Denethor and offering assistance where needed. Alberta Task Force 1, the Northwest Regional IMT, was put on notice for further assistance at the end of February as well. They're available to assist, and the Denethor is aware of that and have not activated them as of yet. And with regards to our regional emergency plan, phase 3 is now complete. All the consultations were completed. We're just waiting for the final report from Sandhurst. And the fire department, 18 calls in February. Calls of note, we did have 2 sprinkler activations in Mackenzie House in February during the heavy cold weather. We're not really sure why it was designed that way, but they have 4 sprinkler heads underneath in their mechanical area, between the floor and their air handling units, where it's a completely non-combustible space, but it also is right in proximity to their cold air return. So the cold air return comes in, a large fan blows all that cold air underneath their vents and freezes off the sprinkler pipes and they burst. So we're working with Mackenzie House to get a variance to get those sprinkler heads eliminated, because it's the opinion of myself and maintenance staff there that they serve no purpose. It's only this high and there's no ability to provide storage there, and it's a completely non-combustible space. So it doesn't make any sense to have a sprinkler head there, but there's 4 of them. So 2 of them have now burst and been replaced. So
Maybe they had nowhere else to put them.
yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Fortunately, the building there's drainage there, so there's no water damage or anything. It's just going straight down across the cement floor and into a drain. We have 6 firefighters currently enrolled in the first medical responder program. This is our most intensive training program within the fire department. It's a 100-hour program in classroom. We've been going through it all through February. We're completing on March 13th. Our students are doing an amazing job. I'm really quite happy with their progress. So I'm very confident that all of them will pass this coming Saturday. We started in-station training on February 10th, and we are managing and still managing some short staffing of volunteer staff due to isolations from outside potential exposures. So a lot of them are isolations because of close contacts from people at work. We've only had one positive case result out of the fire department, who's now since recovered, but we have had less attendance on calls in the last month or so, just because of many people at home and so on. So just everybody taking extra precautions, and we're being extra diligent with, if you're even thinking of having a sniffle, we don't want you in the fire station. So EMS, so not our EMS calls, but EMS in general has really had a great influx of calls. All of them that have been what we call Alpha and Bravo calls, which are non-emergent calls. A lot of them have been COVID related. AHS has brought an extra ambulance on into the high level area at times to deal with peak overload, and that has resulted in a couple of more first response requirement calls for us. We were called to an Alpha call last weekend to respond because an ambulance wasn't available for 45 minutes. So we are seeing the effect of the increased cases in the area having an effect on EMS. It's definitely having an effect on the hospital as well. So we're hoping that we'll get over this hump over the next few weeks and go back to some normal call volumes. But because most of them are what we are classed as Card 36 calls, EMS does not dispatch the fire department unless there's 0 ambulance availability. So we're to any call that's COVID related. So we've been able to reduce our risk to our firefighters attending those calls, but we are getting the other calls that EMS is unable to respond to. And then my final piece of the report is the WUI team program. Current grant was extended by Municipal Affairs using existing grant dollars till the end of March. So we had unused, unexpended grant dollars in the grant due to we had 2 staff leave early, as council was aware. So we used that money to extend the 2 members till the end of March. So my final report was completed and submitted. It was due for March 1st, and that was submitted on time to the Alberta Fire Chiefs Association, and that report is contained in your package under the info page. And as we'll talk later in camera, we're now having continued discussions about the extension of that program for another year.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have someone move the monthly council reports? Councillor Welke, all in favor? Carried. So, down to the RFD for bylaw land use. Council, what is your wish? Discussion? Motion? Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, it's all in the background, which is also a public document. I did want to add, this has probably been the most widely advertised and distributed bylaw the town has probably ever done. Public consultation started back in September, October of last year. It's considered between letters received by a lot of residents in town due to rezonings and the conversations over the changes of use. I did want to address the concern of Mr. and Mrs. Hill, that the administration is sympathetic. We looked at the C3 district not because of any huge demand to place cannabis shops out there, but more to open up the commercial districts in this community to uses that developers or retailers might want to have. Administration doesn't see the addition of or the removal of that from the C3 as having any great impact on the rest of the land use bylaw.
So I guess I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum in that we made them jump through a lot of hoops and to put it downtown where it could be, I guess, more favorably observed by the RCMP, and because it was the beginnings of the cannabis, for sale law. And I guess my concern would be that now they're downtown and yes, they did a lot of searching and everything, that we're changing the bylaw, not because they're downtown, but because administration has decided to review the bylaw and council. So that would be my biggest concern. And my biggest concern is still having cannabis on the outlying areas of high level in the C3 districts. But it's just my opinion.
That change was recent, so they are correct. It did just sort of get rolled up in the whole rewrite. So yes, as I said, their concerns are valid as far as the administration is concerned.
Yes.
I do have a question I should have asked earlier. The Hills, are they renting or do they own that facility?
I have, I'm not sure.
They're renting. Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't matter whether they rent or own, it's still, I'm very empathetic for them because, and now I realize that we don't have a lot of people running forward to open other cannabis shops, but there still is that open door that they could, and so, yes.
But with all the other restrictions, there's not a lot of places that could still be open, is there?
No, the setbacks from the schools pretty much wipes out, it'll be you couldn't be within 100 meters of what would be, I guess, the north boundary of high level public school. So that would take out quite a chunk, both on the east and west sides of the highway, west side specifically. So it would pretty much be limited to the northern part of the highway commercial in town. Because then
What about where the source is? That's where they looked to begin with.
That pond there is a municipal reserve and that's covered in the bylaw.
No, I'm not talking about the source, I'm talking about the complex.
Strip mall.
The little,
Across from the post office.
Over by the source.
Which source?
Where vector printing is and
where Vector is.
where Vector is,
Yeah, that lake,
is that 100
Yeah.
meters?
it's a municipal reserve. and it's
I know, but
all-
is it 100
Yeah, it's
meters?
all within 100 meters.
It's actually, it's only from parks and schools.
Yes.
No, we checked it with municipal reserves. as
Because
well.
it's a water body, I
Parks and
believe.
schools.
Municipal reserves in there as well.
No, I remember that being exempted out because of the location of the water.
Because that's originally where they were looking, was to put it in there, and we specifically put municipal reserves in there to make sure that that area was not included in it.
That's also going to be very close to 100 meters from Spirit of the North property.
Yeah, I think it would be further, don't it?
You've got the whole deer glen in between, probably. So what the C3 says is that will ensure the entire business footprint falls outside of a 100-meter radius of community use and park land use districts. And that wording wasn't changed other than the change it just to the C3.
But community use would be the walking trails.
But I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that because of all of the other restrictions, no one's going to get an unfair advantage that's going to be on highway commercial, central. Like no one's going to have a prime highway spot that they can set up on anyway. So I'm not sure.
Maybe your property.
No, that would be exempt. It's too close to the school.
Is that less than 100 meters?
That would be close. I remember seeing in the map and almost all of the stuff on the service road on
Yeah,
the west
so-
side of the highway was out.
It's a walking trail next to the exit.
Yes,
I think that, since they had specifically looked at these areas not that long ago, and they weren't allowed, and then made their choices, I'd be okay with removing that specific industry from C3, and we look at it again if the demand really goes up. Like, it was a brand new industry, a lot of restrictions, they even got a late start because of, supply issues, in the industry, and we can, you know, if the demand actually went up significantly to where we were getting a lot of requests, well then, you know, it could be added to C3 later, but maybe we can cut them some slack for now. I'd be okay with that. Taking note.
Has the town ever had any other applications?
We, not to my knowledge, we had an inquiry in the C3, but that was almost 2 years ago, and it was never followed up on. We have not had any other formal applications, not since I've been here.
Councillor Jessamine, you haven't said anything.
He asked if they were leasing or
So what is council's wish? Do you wish to leave it in there, take it out? Yes. Yes.
Is there room for growth in the downtown area?
There are more vacant storefronts in the downtown area than there were 2 years ago, yes.
That are within the zone that they could put one in?
Yeah.
do they have to be a certain distance away from each other?
No.
No.
Just 100 meters, so it would be, Centennial Park would be the
So
government.
that goes to the end of the vape shop.
On that side of the street, yes.
Mhm. I would, my personal opinion is I think we still need to keep them downtown. I don't want to see them out on highway commercial. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm in compliance with Councillor Welke. I think if there's room downtown that if somebody else were, wishing to do a new business and there's room down there for them, then I don't see any reason why we couldn't take that out of the bylaw and not have it in there for the C3 area.
Will that be your motion?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Is that second reading with the removal of table 10.3 discretionary W and 10.2.10 setbacks for retail cannabis?
So just to be clear, are we passing second reading with the removal of the cannabis from discretionary use from C3?
That was my question.
Okay, that's what he wants to know if your motion's up.
I'll make that motion for
Okay.
second reading with that exemption taken up.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of second reading with the removal of cannabis from C3? Carried. Do I have a motion for third reading? Deputy Mayor moves third reading. All in favor? Carried. No more reviewing that.
We are sincerely hoping, Madam Mayor, that we don't have to bring you back a land use bylaw amendment for
No, I
some
mean,
time.
you and Haley.
I want to thank Haley for all her.
Yes.
There's been a lot of people involved in this, but Ms. Gavin has put in a considerable amount of time.
All right, so our next RFD is the bylaw for building permit and standards.
Just Just in a nutshell, Madam Mayor, this was originally put in when the town employed its own safety codes officer. We now, of course, contract those services out to Superior Safety Codes. There's also a couple of other anachronisms in here in that it refers to the municipal engineering standards of 1997, yet the town has updated those standards in 2015. So this will bring the bylaw up to date and recognize the fact that those services are contracted out.
Okay, any questions? Could I have someone move second reading then? Councillor Jessamine, all in favor of second reading? Carried. Can I have someone move third reading? Councillor Welke, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. The next one is the RFD for the open air cinema.
Director Wolf will address that, Madam Mayor.
We're gonna squash.
So this was a Horizon report from October Committee of the Whole, when we discussed the inflatable screen. Council had agreed to purchase it, and we were all quite excited about it, but realized that there was an exorbitant licensing event that would cost us per every time we made a showing. So administration would actually like council to rescind the original motion. Okay. Is there any discussion? Could I have a motion? Councillor Jessamine, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. Correspondence for action under the 14.1, the Alberta Emergency Regulating. I couldn't find an action on there. Were they just informing us, or should we take action, or? Yes.
Well, isn't it my understanding the services are still going to be there, they're just not going to have an office here. They still have their officers here and the management here.
So they're operating from home
Oh,
as opposed to their office in the, okay. How many staff, do you know how many staff they still have here?
2 field and 1 manager.
Okay, so maybe we should just take this for information. Councillor Morgan, all in favor? Carried. And the next one too is a repeat of that, is it not? So does someone want to move that for information? Councillor Anderson, all in favor? Carried. The next one I moved out, I thought maybe we should take some action on this, specifically after the report that we watched on the AUMA policing, like the exorbitant funds that taxpayers are going to have to put into changing from RCMP to provincial police force. It was my thinking that maybe Westlock has sent a letter, maybe we should submit a letter if council's into agreement with that. Any discussion? Did you?
I was just going to recommend that we do. I was going to recommend that we do send a letter.
Okay. Okay, do you want to make that motion?
Yes.
Okay, to send a letter to the Honorable Madu.
Can I sign it? No.
Yeah, you sure can. Stating the fact that we think that we should stay with the RCMP, or we support the RCMP CAO. You got that?
Yep.
Okay, need any information, or you'll just follow the
Okay. I'll put it in our own context.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. And the rest of the correspondence for information, does somebody want to move? Councillor Jessamine for information. All in favor? Carried. And this ends our public portion of our meeting. I would like to thank you all for attending, and please keep Councillor Forrest in your thoughts and prayers and wrap around his family as best that you can, as we will. Good evening, everyone.